My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, the best thing I can do is to give you a market update on what is going on in one of the biggest markets in my immediate area, and that is the Mat-Su Valley. So in this update, we'll go over the residential, the condo, and the multifamily market, and I'll kind of give you the big takeaways that I'm seeing. Before we get started, make sure you give this video a like. If you haven't done so already, do subscribe. And stick around to the very end. I'm going to be discussing a special surprise that we're actually rolling out today. This is the first video that we're doing this for, so stick around for that. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the market update for what's going on in the Mat-Su Valley, starting with the residential market. First thing I would point out is the inventory we have available in the Mat-Su. Obviously, in the previous months, it's been very low inventory. And this past month of February has been no exception. We see over here there was about 507 homes on the market this time last year. Right now, past year in February, 250. So almost completely perfectly cut in half for what we had in the previous year. Now, the next thing I would point out is what is going on in the average sold price here in the Mat-Su Valley. And as you can see here, that's looking pretty healthy as well, because it went from roughly about 268,000 to about 308,000 year over year. That's pretty significant. One thing I would point out though is in January that the year comparison was a little off. And obviously you can see right here behind me, the past year it was pretty normal to see the average sold price really high as well. So I'm going to be watching pretty closely what's going on with the sold price moving forward. I'm not sure if January was just kind of an exception to the norm or what happened there. But the past month in February looks good, so we're just going to keep an eye on it. Now, the next thing we need to take a look at is what is going on as far as the units sold in this market. And it's actually looking pretty good. We're seeing it settling down just a little bit from what we see here in the previous years, obviously represented by the orange. And gold, what we're seeing this year, the units sold last year was 110. This year it's 120. So it is higher, even though the inventory is so packed down from what it was the year before. So it's a favorable indicator. Let's take a quick break. Did you know that I host a podcast? Well, I do. And definitely do go check out one of our most recent podcasts in which I interview someone who's actually recently moved up here to Alaska. He'll talk about his experience, what drew him here, and what his impressions has been of the state after living here for a couple months at this point. So do make sure to go check that out. And without further ado, let's go and jump back into today's market update. The next thing we're going to check out is what's going on in the condo market. This market is really not a big piece of the market out in the Mat-Su Valley. We're going to cover it anyway, though. So what we see over here, the properties that are on the market, the active inventory is 2 compared to last year's 5. So we see this obviously isn't a big piece of the local market here, but for what it's worth, yeah, inventory is less than half than what it was the year before. The next thing we're going to look at is what's going on in the average sold price. Not a huge shift here. We're actually seeing it went from about 166 to about 162. So just a slight actual decrease, even though the inventory is going down. We'll talk about more of that in the summary. Lastly, let's see what's going on for the inventory. This clearly shows us we are really neck and neck from the previous year. And you know, that's doing pretty good considering how low the inventory is. Keep in mind, this is 5 compared to 5. Okay, so we're not talking huge market shares here, but it is part of the data, so include it. Last but not least, let's look at what's going on in the multifamily market. First off, number of active properties, it was 49 last year. Now it's 17. So what we're seeing is just really across the board, even last year represented in the orange bars there, is the inventory in the multifamily market's been pretty scarce for a while. We'll talk more about that in the summary though. Now let's take a look and see what's going on for the average sold price here in the Mat-Su Valley for multifamily properties. This looks insane because it went from about 262 to about 435,000, okay? And that is just insane looking at it on the graph there. Keep in mind though, multifamily properties are encompassing everything from the duplex all the way up to the big apartment complex. So there's a lot of different properties, obviously, that are going to be priced differently within that category. So seeing huge shifts like this, it's something we would kind of expect, not regularly, but it's not going to surprise us as much as if we saw this and it was on the residential side. Okay, so yes, average sold price for properties, for multifamily properties in Mat-Su Valley is up. Lastly, let's check and see how many properties have actually sold that are multifamily properties. So over here, last year, 8 properties sold that were multifamily. This year, it's 10. So even though the inventory is really low, the demand still remains pretty good for multifamily properties in the Mat-Su Valley. Now let's summarize all of this in a way that actually makes sense for those of you who are watching from home or wherever you're at right now. So number one, on the residential side, we're seeing, again, inventory remains low. Average price, is obviously still up. What we're seeing though is that the number of units sold is starting to come back into line with where it was the year before. So this might be a sign that the market's starting to go more back into a balanced position. We're not going to know until history has set its part, but that's just what we're seeing in the data. We're not sure if this is going to be a long-term trend or not, but let's keep an eye on it. On the condo side, inventory remains really low. Average sold price has actually gone down just a little bit. Okay, not a whole lot, but it's gone down just a little bit. So really what we can see there is, because the market is so small, having your inventory cut in half when you're starting out at 5, it's really not going to be that big of an impact. Now, if it's 200 and we suddenly went down to 100, that can have a pretty sizable impact. So what I'm going to say there is average sold price is going down, but it's a really small pool, so it's hard to make any good predictions or analyze the data when there's not much data. Finally, let's summarize what's going on in the multifamily market. So inventory's down. Pretty similar story as the other two sectors of the market. Inventory's down, price is up, and really what we're seeing is the units sold still is staying up there pretty well. So what this is telling us is that properties that are multifamily in the Mat-Su Valley are still in pretty good demand. Despite the prices going up, investors want to jump in on that and really take advantage of it for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's kind of a flow of migration going from the municipality of Anchorage out to the Mat-Su Valley. And with that being the case, a lot of investors are kind of reading the writing on the wall and trying to take advantage of those properties that are out in the Mat-Su Valley. They're typically cheaper, or that's not a good word, less expensive than what they are over in Anchorage. So for that reason, we're probably going to continue seeing the price for these multifamily properties in the Mat-Su Valley continue to creep up. So I sure hope this has been useful. If it has, do give this video a like. And now the special part that I was talking about before, if you are looking at selling your home in the near future, do make sure you download my seller guide and in the description section down below. So it's absolutely free of charge, so just make sure you go click on that and you'll be able to get your free guide in there. Obviously, reach out to me through my Facebook page. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below if you have any questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer those for you. So without further ado, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.